breaking news. 6 police officers suspended in Baltimore. This as new video surfaces tonight of a young black man arrested by police who went into a coma, dying of a severe injury to his spinal cord. In this video just into CNN, you see 25-year-old Freddie Gray screaming as he's dragged by police.
Shorty, that was after they tased out him like that. Man, I've been recording this. I've been recording it. I've been recording it. What car they come out of, yo?
You see him unable to walk, his legs lifeless already at this point. It reportedly took police then 30 minutes to call for medical help after these pictures, and you hear Gray being screaming in pain as he's being dragged. Police say they are investigating. They say those officers, though, insist that they did not use force. So how did Freddie Gray end up like this, on life support, spending the last week of his life in a coma with a severed spine? Miguel Marquez is out front from Baltimore.
Witnesses say from the very beginning, Freddie Gray asked for medical attention.
They flipped him over and they put both knees on his back and held him there till the cruiser came to pick him up. He was hollering that the handcuffs was too tight. He was hollering, the handcuffs too tight, handcuffs too tight. I got asthma. Today,
Baltimore police said 6 of its officers are suspended with pay after 25-year-old Freddie Gray fell into a coma and never recovered, dying Sunday, 7 days after being arrested by police.
There was no physical bodily injury that we saw, nor was it evident in the autopsy of Mr. Gray. None of his limbs were broken. He did suffer a very tragic injury to his spinal cord, which resulted in his death.
Cell phone video captured by a witness just after his arrest shows Gray's limp body being carried by police as he shouts in pain. Witnesses say what happened before the cell phone started recording amounted to abuse. His family lawyer says his spine was nearly severed.
He put his hands out like as the officer walked straight to him, hit him in his mouth, slant him on his head, put the cuffs on him.
But police disagree, saying Gray was arrested without force or incident. He has a history of prior drug arrests and lived in one of West Baltimore's toughest neighborhoods. The family lawyer says Gray got coffee that Sunday morning, saw police officers he feared, and ran.
As soon as he saw police, he took off running, zigzagging through the alleyways there, came down that alleyway, across this little green patch here, and then across this street and down this little alleyway here. Police say it took all of 2 minutes from when they first saw him to the time that they arrested him, which is hard to believe because it is several blocks away.
The Gray family lawyer contests information police have so far put out, saying it is critical to know when Freddie Gray was seriously injured and how long it took to actually get him help.
This, where witnesses say where he was first taken by police. Other witnesses told his attorney he was dragged then about 20 feet up the sidewalk here. This is the Bruce Court housing project in Baltimore. He was dragged to this area, and that part where you see the video, that's where this was taken here.
One of many police surveillance cameras on this block. Baltimore police say only one picked up a tiny bit of the incident, and it didn't show any of their officers doing anything wrong. The Baltimore police initially said Gray was arrested for carrying a knife. Today, Baltimore's mayor went out of her way to make clear that carrying a knife is not grounds for arrest.
20 away. 15 seconds. All right, and our thanks to Miguel Marquez, obviously having a little bit of an audio difficulty. Thanks to you, Miguel. Tonight, the mayor of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings-Blake. Mayor, thank you so much for being with me. The breaking news tonight, that new cell phone video from a bystander. Let me just play a small portion of it.
Shorty, that was after they tased the out him like that. They didn't tase you like that. You wonder why he can't use his legs.
Now, at that point, it looks like he can't use his legs, which you see the bystander say. You also hear that witness say that the police tased Gray. This afternoon, though, in the press conference, of course, the deputy police commissioner said an officer took out his taser but did not use it. So now you have a witness saying a taser was used. The police are saying a taser was not used. Do you trust the police version of events?
Well, that's why we're doing this investigation. It is understandable that a witness would think that a taser was used if it was taken out. But if a taser is engaged, there's a record of that, an electronic record in the taser. So that evidence will be in the investigation, which we're very committed to making sure that we get this right. We have had a very challenging history in our city when it comes to trust between the community and the police, and we have to make sure that this investigation goes forward, that it's transparent, and that we actually have independent eyes to take a look at it, because it's too important not to get this right.
Well, I think it's the point that you make there, that they're going to have an electronic record on that taser, is obviously going to be crucial. But, there's issues here of race. There's issues here of possible excessive violence. Freddie Gray's family's attorney says his spinal cord was 80% severed near his neck. We know police are saying they arrested him because of what they say was a hidden knife. I guess just at face value, and I know you're doing an investigation, but at face value, Mayor, would that sort of a crime justify an 80% severed spine?
I don't know. That is a very terrible injury, which led to Mr. Gray's untimely death. I don't think that there's very much, I don't think any of us are given a justification. We're trying to figure out exactly what happened. Having a knife is not necessarily probable cause for a stop or an arrest, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it.
Freddie Gray was a young black man. The officer seen in the video that we see happened to be white. Do you think Gray would have been pursued by police in the same way if he were white?
While I think it's an interesting question, that type of speculation isn't useful or helpful. Whether or not it was white is irrelevant. He was black, that fact isn't going to change. Neither are the facts of this case, that we are determined to get to the bottom of.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor Rawlings-Blake. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Front now, Billy Murphy Jr., the attorney for Freddie Gray's family. And Billy, good to have you with me. Let me just, you just heard the mayor.
Nice to be here.
Thank you, sir. Trying to make this, not trying to make this a racial issue. Nonetheless, though, Baltimore, a city that's had plenty of problems related to that. I put the question to you because your client, he lost his life in this altercation. Do you think this would have happened if he were not black?
Well, to understand the answer to that question and the probable answer to that question, you got to look at the history of police brutality in Maryland and across the country. It's primarily white police officers beating up and killing black men. So if that's the history, if that's the pattern, certainly you'd be remiss not to ask the question, did race have anything to do with this incident? And of course it did. And we have this long history in Baltimore of literally whitewashing these kinds of cases, and that didn't come to an end until cell phone cameras made it dangerous for the police to lie about what they had actually done to a suspect. And so, yes, there's a history of racist police brutality in Baltimore and across the country.
So when you say
and it colors this case.
It does, and the police are saying, sir, that their version is Freddie Gray was arrested without force, without incident. Obviously, you see him being dragged there. His legs weren't able to move. They say at that time he was fine, that something happened in transport. That's what they say happened. What's your understanding of what happened?
Well, I don't know all of the details. I have not seen the autopsy report, which ought to be illuminating in some respects. I haven't seen the written statements or the oral statements that were made by the 6 police officers who've been suspended. I thought that perhaps they had refused to cooperate with the investigation until I heard the press conference. And the deputy commissioner actually said to you what they allegedly said, that they didn't use excessive force, etc. So clearly they made some statements. Where are those statements? If we're going to be transparent, why don't you release the written statements they made? Let us look at them to see whether they're consistent or inconsistent, or whether they make sense or don't make sense, or whether they're false in whole or in part. Let us see. Bring them to the light of day. Don't use part of the stuff that they said to your advantage and leave the rest out. So that's problem number one. Number two, we learned for the first time that at some point, probably right before he was sent to the hospital,
yes,
there was a second person in the van. Well, that's a curious thing. And we heard that he was separated by some kind of screen, but did he hear anything? What did he say? Again, in the interest of transparency, we didn't hear anything about that.
All right.
Then we heard about these multiple stops. What was the reason for the multiple stops? Was the man in physical distress? Was he being stopped so that he could be constantly monitored because he was deteriorating physically? And when did that happen? When was the first sign of that deterioration? Again, transparency didn't get us an answer to that.
All right, well, Billy,
what about probable cause? You know, I mean, there's so many unanswered questions that have arisen as a result of a rather bizarre press conference where I think the mayor did her part, and I think she was sincere. But after that, it degenerated into bizarreness.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and I know there are a lot of questions out there. We're going to be having you back to talk about those answers, and of course, the police as well. Thanks very much to you, Mr. Murphy. And out front now.